Hi, guys. Hey, Aries. All right, so we're going to take a look first at who is Aries most compatible with. Now, I'm not looking at this from a traditional astrological, compatible sign perspective because that's something that doesn't change. You can look that up. I look at storytelling. So I'm looking for the features that would be most compatible and possibly the sign, but kind of what person, what kinds of behaviors would be most compatible with Aries right now. And then we'll also do a couple of other peaks specifically at just Aries focused message. Okay. I do these messages about once every quarter where it's focused just on our lead character. Seven of Wands, Page of Wands, Four of Swords, and the Devil. Interesting because it says the person that Aries might be most compatible with is somebody with very strong opinions, somebody who knows how to put up boundaries with people, specifically put up boundaries with the devil, somebody who can call it like it is, somebody that doesn't BS, somebody that is passionate, um, but they are very stringent about like not crossing boundaries and borders. Like if they're interested in somebody, they're very plain and very clear. They do not blur lines. Um, this is also somebody who's like able to admit, their fears if they have any. Somebody who would not pull any punches about that. Like these are the things that, trigger me. These are the things that I'm scared of. Sometimes I get nervous when I get lost in the woods or, it's just somebody who is aware of there are problems that have to be worked through and they don't run from that or pretend that that doesn't occur. With the Page of Wands, they also are somebody who wants to build like a relationship step by step. That would be somebody that possibly would resonate really well with Aries right now. Um, a character who's attracted to Aries shows it plainly and is excited to get to know Aries, but doesn't miss any of the steps. They're not trying to leap from one relationship into, like, let's say that we're madly in love by our second date. This is somebody that would probably flirt with Aries before asking them out and even maybe preface it by saying, I'm pretty socially awkward, but you give me about 7 more times that I see you, and I'm going to wind up asking you out. And it literally might be that they're being pretty honest about that. It takes me some time to get courageous, but I'll tell you, I'm going to be asking you out. I just got to be less freaked out. Like it's kind of a cute character because they seem to own stuff really well. But then they also seem to be very transparent about, like, I'm still fixing up some of the things that I've needed to in my life. I love the fact that this is a character who maybe doesn't hide anything about who they are, about how they feel about things. And then when we get to the devil, I do think that this character, they may not have a squeaky clean past. They may be somebody who's like, like I have my things, I have, my imperfections, but they're also very proud, and they think highly of themselves, but um, they don't think less of others. They're proud of themselves for dealing with things in a straight. That is learn to like take full accountability of their mistakes of the past. This I don't think that this is somebody who necessarily has made mistakes with Aries. It could be a brand new person. Um, Let me just ask, when does Aries meet this person, or have they already, or is this coming in? King of Swords. This feels like somebody who is either they'll meet Aries. I don't know if Aries is taking like some accountability class. Like, let's say, for example, both people got a ticket and they're in traffic school. You sign up and you say, yes, I'll take the class to get re-educated on my driving skills, and then it reduces the ticket from 150 to $80 or something. They could meet each other in traffic school. They could meet each other in some kind of like support group. They could meet each other, and it just feels like it's in a place where there's no lies. I feel like however Aries meets this person, or when they meet this person, it'll be during a time of true transparency anyway. And Queen of Pentacles, definitely, I think that this person is going to make an impression for Aries. It's going to stay in Aries' mind. well after they meet this person. It could be kind of a brief exchange, but I feel like this person says something very real, and or this has already happened and they've stayed in Aries' mind. Now let's say this is somebody that Aries has actually dealt with in the past. Let's say these are two people that are more mature age, but let's say they were married even. They knew each other back and dated and had a romance back when they were in their 30s, and it was an absolute disaster. And now 20 years later, they're in their 50s and they are meeting each other again. And this person is like, Aries, like I had so many like bad behaviors back then. I've grown out of so many of them, but I'll tell you some of these things, like I certainly never stopped loving Aries, but I really had to change an old persona. Like this is somebody who could be a very mature, older individual. I keep thinking about somebody who like stopped drinking and they're a much better version of themselves, but they're like, I've been sober for so long now, but I don't touch this stuff. I really had to, bury that side of my behavior, and I'm really proud of myself. And Aries, I want to tell you this is somebody who's like, they're very much owning their own behavior and saying what's different about them, whether this is two people just meeting and it's just raw honesty right out of the gate, or this is somebody that in this story I can't tell. Aries may have had some encounter with them in the past, but it just says that for right now, this kind of raw honesty, I think, is very appealing to Aries, is what it says to me in that. Okay, now let me go ahead and I do want to ask, what makes Aries so attractive right now? What makes Aries so attractive right now? We got a lot of cards. We have the Fool in the reverse. We have the Knight of Wands. So Aries doesn't run from, I think that they can dish it and sling it as good as they get it. Like when it comes to like flirtatious energy, Aries ain't shy. Aries doesn't run. Aries can like maintain eye contact and, be just as sultry as anybody. We've got a Queen of Cups. I feel like Aries has a very refined but smoky, powerful way to like. I think if people think that they're going to with Aries, and Aries, that's not Aries. Aries is going to smolder right back at them and stare them down. And I kind of think that it's a fun like battle of wills or something. Aries just comes across as somebody who's got that self-confidence to take their time and to be very like sensual, but it's all very good natured. We have a 10 of Wands, we have the Hermit, and we got the Nine of Swords in the reverse. Aries also is very attractive to others because Aries makes people feel like the journey that you're on, oh, I've been there. Yep. And you know what? Let me tell you something I learned. You are just fine. You'll get through your moments that you think are the biggest deal in the world right now, and you'll discover that they were nothing but a fart in the wind later on. Trust me, been there, done that. I just feel like Aries has this way about them to make other people who are feeling like troubled and stressed and, even like ostracized. Aries has a way to bring them back in to the circle. Aries makes people feel like, I've been right where you are. Trust me, what you're dealing with ain't nothing. You don't need to stay out in the cold or feel like you made a mistake that you can never come back from. I feel like Aries is extremely down to earth and just makes people feel like they're okay. They're going to be all right. You're going to fumble in life. That's what we all sign up for. And the stuff that we think is the biggest deal in the world turns out not to be. So make a little bit lighter of the mistakes you've made, say sorry and really mean it, but then don't sit around and hate yourself your whole life. That seems to be Aries' attitude. And that, like, compassion with kind of like some, down to earth, like it helps people to move forward way faster. I think Aries is very appealing, very attractive because they don't really believe in like holding on to punishment or like bogging oneself down with self-recrimination. It's like you screwed up, say you're sorry, fix what you can, and then continue on. You're going to be just fine. I don't know that I could see how that would be very appealing, very attractive. I think this Aries is trying to do a little reset there. I feel like if Aries is one who's what I was saying before it buffered is if Aries is great at saying, given the information I currently have, here's my opinion. But my opinion could change. It all depends on what bits of information I don't have or how I might see things differently later. That's where I think Aries has strong convictions, but they don't sashay around and tell everybody this is how it is. I'm right. You know, let me proclaim from the mountaintop, this is the only way. This is an Aries who's so much wiser. They're like, all I can say is this is my perspective at the moment. And here's my sound reasoning as to why. But I'm open to my opinion having to change because perhaps I'm mistaken or perhaps I don't see something. I'm listening. Even if Aries is like big pissed at somebody, they're able to still say, I'm pissed off because of what I think the situation is, but I might be mistaken. Or over time, I might see it differently. Do you have something to contribute? I'll listen, and change my opinion on this. It feels like what a great strength to have to be patient and yet still have, the ability to be articulate and speak your piece, but then also step back and listen and be willing to change your mind if things are different than what you thought. That's an amazing character. I love this Aries. All right, let's take a look. What does an X think of Aries? We've got a 9 of Pentacles and we've got the 3 of Cups sideways. On one hand, they believe Aries is single and abundant and super powerful, but they also still think Aries kind of wants them. That does not mean that they're right. It's funny how this almost feels a little bit like wishful thinking, or maybe they're asking around, asking how Aries is doing, or they wish that they could get some info. Look, they do think highly of Aries, and they know that Aries has a lot going for them, and that Aries is good solo, but they also imagine that Aries probably still wants them. That might be what they're telling themselves. And they could be doing some spying because if we look at this, we see this little eyeball in the sky. This does look like they want to get the scoop and they think it's just a matter of time before I'll hear through the grapevine Aries is thinking of me. I kind of think Aries might not be. And I think a part of them knows this, but a part of them hopes that that's not the case. Okay, well, at least they really have a lot of respect for Aries, but it does look like it's somebody who can't quite believe Aries could move on from moi. There is a little bit of that they're pretty sure Aries will always still want them. And Aries might unconditionally love them, but it doesn't mean that Aries is pining for the ex. Okay, let me just take a look at how do others see Aries. Now, this is non-romantic, this question. Chariot sideways, 3 of coins. Aries is real good at giving people a lot of leeway. Aries is able to work with people from any walk of life, even people they don't agree with, people they don't get along well with. It takes a long time before Aries walks away from somebody and says, okay, you go in the never again pile. Your name is on the list of absolutely will not answer your calls. I almost think this is an Aries who has such a strong sense of themselves and such a strong belief that people can evolve and change that they don't write very many people off in life. Why would I need to? What you believe that's different than me doesn't challenge me because I know what I believe. Just because you have a different opinion doesn't make you a villain. But there will be a few non-negotiables. But I think for the most part, I think Aries has a very long, rope of patience that they give to people and say, look, just because you have a different opinion, as long as you're not out doing terribly unfair things to other people, I can still get along with you just because your thoughts are different, as long as your actions aren't heinous, and I kind of feel like Aries is in that place where it's like other people know Aries is actually incredibly slow to cut somebody out of their life, which also means if Aries does cut somebody out of their life, they must have done something bad. Aries challenges people because Aries is patient, because they do see different sides of things. And that could make people uncomfortable, that Aries can be patient. It can also possibly make people feel like unsteady because Aries waits for them to show their hand. And that alone could make some people very intimidated. Aries isn't afraid of the silences, the pauses, the thoughtful, mindful delays where, you let somebody else speak. And that could be unnerving for some people. All right, we are going to leave this one here. Sorry about the internet wobbles. We'll see what I can do about that behind the scenes now. All right, you guys, thanks again for being here. Thanks so much for giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Lots of love.